think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers.
They seem to be in full-scale retreat from spending cuts and are talking about raising people's taxes again. And I have only one thing to say to the tax increasers. Go ahead, make my day.
If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Those who would trade our freedom for security have embarked on this downward course. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is on now.
All right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks so much for being with us today on the program. You know, this is one of those days where you just kind of look at the headlines and you just kind of go, huh. Okay, interesting. The magician David Blaine is in the news. Weirdly enough, I was watching a very, very old YouTube video like 5 days ago, or maybe less than that. That was a spoof making fun of David Blaine. Many of you maybe don't even remember who David Blaine is, but he's this guy that did this stuff on street magic, you know? Go up to people, blow their minds with magic. Generally just a really creepy dude. He is, according to the Daily Beast, so take it with a grain of salt, but the NYPD, they have him or are investigating him right now for sexual misconduct. Is it sexual misconduct or sexual assault? Let me see here. I think it'd have to be sexual assault because this is an actual police unit. This is an actual crime. David Blaine under NYPD investigation over sexual assault allegations. Apparently there are two women. Well, I mean, I'm sure it was some magic trick gone wrong, right? Have you ever seen those old David Blaine? You ever see those old David Blaine street magic episodes or videos? You know, he would always do things really weird, violate people's privacy, that sort of thing. But it was magic, so it was okay, you know. Oh, you know, I don't. Well, all I'm saying is, you know, I think this might be a pretty difficult allegation to pin down on David Blaine. And how are you going to arrest the guy? He's just going to get right out of the cuffs. Now, speaking of sexual assault, you have Joe Biden, who is being criticized for sexual misconduct. Okay, which is almost worse. It's almost a worse thing than actual sexual assault. There's a couple of women who've come out and said that he smells their hair. He kind of grabs them by the shoulders and, like, you know, kisses them on their head and smells their hair. And that made them very uncomfortable. And then now you have all of these other videos that have made their rounds on the internet before of Joe Biden making little girls obviously uncomfortable. And Democrat, Republican, go watch those videos and you tell me that those girls are enjoying themselves being around this older man and enjoy. I'm telling you, creepy Uncle Joe is what they call him, not Grandpa Joe. So you have Biden's spokesperson, according to thehill.com, just calling this cottage industry of lies. That's what is going on right now. You have quite possibly the next Democrat nominee for president of the United States, and you have all of these people going out there and defending him from these accusations of women and sexual misconduct, if you will, or just being inappropriately touchy-feely. Maybe using your, I don't know, just I don't know, just take it for what you take it for however you want to take it. You know, using your maleness in a way that makes women uncomfortable. I think this goes beyond that, though. I think if you go watch some of these videos, you can clearly see that Joe Biden has a talent for making women uncomfortable, and he's touching other other guys' daughters and touching their wives. I mean, so it's looks like he's just an equal. At the very least, it's some of the most awkward videotape that you will see. Cringe-worthy. On YouTube they have these things called cringe compilations where it might be people freaking out in public or saying really stupid things, but it's like cringe-worthy. It's like, don't keep going, don't continue to do this. That's what it's like at the very least when you watch these Joe Biden videos. It just is what it is. Now, I don't think it's a cottage industry of lies, though, but you do have people now are defending this. Whoopi Goldberg is defending Joe Biden. Quote, "I don't want Joe to stop kissing and smelling women's hair. I don't want Joe to stop." That's the actual quote. But she's referring to kissing and smelling of women's hair. On Monday on ABC's The View, co-host Whoopi Goldberg, Meghan McCain, and Joy Behar defended former Vice President Joe Biden in the wake of former Nevada lawmaker Lucy Flores' claim he inappropriately touched and kissed her in 2014 at a campaign rally. Goldberg said, "Listen, in the old days, we would call Joe. Some folks of a certain age would say he's overly familiar. Most politicians, when they're doing this with you, Joe is a hands-on kind of guy. I've never heard anyone," she says, she felt violated. "I have to take her at her word. But it would have been nice if she turned to him and say, you know what? I don't really like this. Please don't do this, Mr. Vice President. I'm not comfortable with this." Something, because he's standing right there. Joy Behar, quote, "It's a long way from smelling your hair to grabbing your nether regions." And that's my word, not hers. "Let's tell the truth. But she felt annoyed or uncomfortable, and we have to accept that. I don't think it rises to the point we've been listening to like Harvey Weinstein and the rest of these people. It just doesn't look like that. We all know Joe Biden. He's been here. When I met him in Florida, before he was vice president, he's so friendly. He's a close talker. He comes right up to your face, and you're thinking, I hope my breath is good. Or more important, I hope he is. He talks close. He touches. That's what he's like. I feel it would be unfortunate if we got rid of everybody who's an affectionate kind of person. Those are nice people, too." End quote. That's Joy Behar there. Mm-hmm. Abby Huntsman said, "I always wonder when these things come out, what is the motive for this person? Is it simply to let people know I was uncomfortable, which you could have done in private, or is it because you want someone else to win and you want him to have doubts that doubts about announcing a presidency? I've had concerns about the Me Too movement from the beginning, about getting to this place where you can't have normal interactions with each other. This was uncomfortable, and that's her place. Are we going to get to a place where we can't shake hands or hug each other? I worry about that. No. Let's just all make sure we have all seen the Joe Biden videos. Okay, these are not handshakes. You go watch these videos, and I'm telling you what, this man has a talent for being a very creepy dude. That's why, if this was just one lady, telling this story, it's now two, by the way. If this was just one lady telling this story right before a campaign rally, but when it comes to smelling people's hair and doing this, go watch these videos, with these senators' kids, when you're getting sworn in and stuff, and I'm telling you, this guy is he's definitely very physical. You can see one video where one senator, was it Sessions, slaps his hand out of the way, like, don't touch my granddaughter. No. The videos are what they are. I'm not describing them inaccurately. They are what they are. So I think, you know what I think it is? I think there are some Democrats that know that if he gets the Democrat nomination, There's no chance he's going to win. Because that kind of stuff is meme-worthy material all day long. And conservatives, who are actually very funny because the right is pro-comedy, the left is anti-laughter, therefore they're anti-comedy, that stuff's going to go around like crazy. It's going to drive the left nuts, and I think they know it. I mean, you talk about vulnerability. You can't exactly criticize the President of the United States for his attitude towards women, right? The locker room talk. Remember that? You can't exactly take the moral high ground if you're Joe Biden and you're making little girls uncomfortable when they're just there because their parents are getting sworn in. It just is what it is, folks. Go watch the videos. Yeah, the still photos are also very creepy. But anyway, so you have David Blaine in the news for actual sexual assault. We have Joe Biden. He's in the news for really just being a creepy guy. Creepy Uncle Joe. That's exactly right. Hey, so last week we had the story of President Trump going to Michigan. Now, he didn't win Michigan. Remember this? He didn't win Michigan last time. A lot of people are thinking that maybe President Trump might do very well in 2020. And that Michigan, he wants to pick up Michigan. Interestingly enough, according to this report, now again, this is just a report, Zero Hedge, 34% of Michigan Trump rally attendees were registered Democrats. Approximately 34% of attendees at President Trump's Thursday night rally in Grand Rapids, Michigan, were registered Democrats, according to Trump's 2020 campaign manager, Brad Parscale. Speaking on Saturday with Fox News' Jesse Waters, Parscale explained that the campaign uses the phone numbers of attendees to look up their voter information. Quote, "We had tens of thousands of registrants. I believe 34% of the people who came to the Michigan rally were Democrats. Almost half had only voted once in the last 4 elections." When asked if the campaign was still harvesting information on various demographics, Parscale said, "I'm harvesting nearly 1 million voters' data information in key swing states every month." That must terrify Democrats, injected Waters. "Yeah, we are. Put it this way, we are 4 times ahead of where we were in 2016, and I plan on being 6 to 8 times ahead in data. That's tens of millions of records." I just want you to, let's forget about the data harvesting. Let's just talk about the one statistic here. 34%. If that is true, and that trends, I mean, if it's true where Trump has an approval rating in the African American community of 15%, a year later it's 28%. If you have a national average of a 10-point swing, 10, 15-point swing with the African American vote to President Trump, it's over in terms of how viable Trump is. He's going to win. Now, I know. Listen, I know. I'm not going to say that it's impossible for President Trump to lose. I'm not, going to go full CNN or anything like that. All I'm saying is the Democrat Party, I think, knows this. And again, back to the headlines of a few weeks ago, that is why they are trying to raise the voting age or lower the voting age to 16, because they're not winning elections. They need more voters. That's why they want to get rid of the Electoral College, okay? And they only want to go to the popular vote, right? Instead of winning the way you're supposed to win in our system, they want to remake the system because I think they believe right now it's advantage Donald Trump. So they are telegraphing. It's circumstantial, but in my opinion, their fears and their goals are telegraphing what they already know to be true. That the Democrat Party in this country is having a very, very difficult time, not necessarily competing against Republicans, although they are, but they're having a very difficult time competing against President Donald Trump. And this broad coalition that he brings together, where, you have these, and I mentioned this yesterday, you have people who voted for him because of the wall, strong nationalistic policy, and that bleeds really into these trade deals that he has actually been good on, and the trade war that he's in with China. There are a ton. I can't tell you how many people out there actually voted because of that, and but it's very underreported. Nobody talks about that, right? But it's extremely underreported about what a big deal that was, about how the blue-collar working class, they knew why they didn't have jobs and higher wages, if they had jobs, continuing to grow. Like, they understood what had happened to this country, and it was a big deal. And the Democrat Party abandoned them. It just wasn't as profitable for the Democrat Party to actually stick up for this blue-collar. And here you have President Trump, who comes in, who is a businessman who has made his money in the service industry, which means if middle-class people are not in his casinos or hotels spending money, then he doesn't make money. That's a very important point to who President Trump is, okay? He's not from some, hedge fund somewhere. He's not from, Wall Street. This guy was in the service economy. This guy was a builder. He was a developer. He had to have people participating in voluntary economic commerce, not this forced stock market, it's based on unsound economic fundamentals where, you have an IPO or something like that. You've got it's about psychologically, it's not how much we're really worth. It's how much we can get people to think that we're worth. President Trump either has people going to his hotels or he doesn't. It's very simple. You know what I mean? He either has people going to the golf courses or he doesn't. Okay? So then he understands the value of a vibrant middle class, this idea of a chance of economic mobility. And he realizes, I'm sure he could recognize by his own businesses, that the numbers were getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Well, why? Well, all of our jobs moved overseas. You know what I'm saying? My point is this is something that I think goes way, it's way under the radar. It's way underreported. And I think that's why 34% of Michigan Trump rallies were, in fact, or attendees at that rally in Grand Rapids were Democrats. That's astonishing. I mean, I'm telling you, the Democrats are certainly worried about all this. All right, we're going to take a break. And the phone number, 870-275-9799. We have a great show for you, by the way. Mr. Josh Roll Call Waters will be on. We got the Conduit scorecard going to go over this week, 3 bills. Also at 7:33, we're going to be talking to a professor of law at Touro Law School in Central Islip, New York. He's the author of a book, Toxic Diversity, Race, Gender, and Law Talk in America. Dan Subotnick will be on the program. Love to introduce you to him. We will be back here in just a moment.
It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Hey, folks, welcome to the program. Thanks so much for being with us. This is hour number 2. My name is Paul. You have found the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. We had big news yesterday. We covered it all last hour. If you haven't listened to the Hour 1 podcast, you need to. We brought you the audio from the Marble Palace. We brought you the news on the federal judge striking down the work requirements for Arkansas Works. What is the state going to do now? And here to talk more about that with us, we have State Representative Dan Sullivan in studio here as we broadcast from Little Rock. Dan, welcome, sir.
Thank you, Paul. Good to be with you again.
It's always great to have you on, sir.
Especially when we have such exciting news.
I know. It is exciting news. So I guess it's kind of one of those questions. Where were you when you found out that, the Arkansas Works program, something that, people have spent the last 4 years kind of building up, renaming the old program that people didn't like?
In a world full of constituents with social media accounts, bloggers just looking to increase their page views, and a talk radio host who generally is just the worst. How are Little Rock's elite supposed to conduct business with such a lack of privacy? Introducing the 1835 Club, older and more refined than other clubs that claim discretion. The 1835 Club is for seasoned political veterans that want to conduct the highest form of aristocratic business with the public's money. Are you a schemer? Do you someday want a guaranteed flow of taxpayer money to support your business? Is it your dream to see the .gov domain at the end of your business website? Don't listen to the imitators. The 1835 Club is the place where corrupt politicians and businessmen hatch their next crony schemes. At the 1835 Club, we make lobbying safe and legal.
Ethics.
Why, of course. All business is done in an ethical manner. Just look for the sign above the door that reads, loophole. Are you tired of the Capitol Police restricting your access to the roof after a perfectly good night of drinking? The 1835 Club has libations and a perfectly good roof. Other crony clubs that promise discretion try to lure you in by advertising bars made out of aeroplanes. Well, at the 1835 Club, instead of an airplane fuselage, we've got a space shuttle. No, not a bar. We've got an actual space shuttle that makes a daily run to the moon so members of the 1835 Club can have some real privacy away from the bloggers and taxpayers. Are you an Arkansas aristocrat? Do you want to be? It's the 1835 Club, and we work tirelessly to make sure the good old boy system remains alive and well. Join today.
Disclaimer. The 1835 Club reserves the right to deny membership to anyone who has principles. Any talk of the Declaration of Independence or the Constitution must be done in jest or, at the very least, with a condescending tone. And finally, the 1835 Club will be given a 25% commission of any agreements made between politicians and the business community.
PHP Parody. Get to tune in to Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
I was at the Northeast Arkansas Tea Party last night, and it was quite the gathering. I was just giving them a little legislative update on all of the bills that are still out there, the conclusions of some of them, specifically talking about Arkansas in our coverage of the 92nd General Assembly. I will tell you that it was interesting to kind of gauge the room. People upset at the money that they keep taking. I think that everybody in that room at least knows that there is no conversation down there about cutting spending to reprioritize the money somewhere else so we don't have to come back for the people or come back to the people and ask for more money. Okay. $418 million highway program they're coming to us to ask for. And they've already passed $100 million of that. That'll start, your gas taxes will go up October. They will start collecting this. Okay. They've raised taxes on your 911, right? That's $16 million. So your cell phone bill. So they're going to tax your cell phone bill more to pay for 911. By the way, the same argument as the roads, right? Oh, well, we used to tax landlines, but less people have... I don't have a landline. Less people have landlines now. Less people have landlines. And so we've got to do something about it. And we've got to move the tax base. And so the same thing with roads, right? Well, there's so many more fuel-efficient cars, and people are driving less combustion engines. They're driving the electric cars. We got to do something about it. Yeah, we got to protect our tax base. Never mind the fact that revenue has grown. In spite of these terrible conditions for landlines and combustible engines, these horrible conditions for these things, revenue continues to grow to the state. $500 million over the last 4 years. Huh. Interesting that they still get more money from us in the conditions where we're told they're not getting enough money from us. Huh. That's weird.
Found out that the federal judge said no more.
The place you'll always remember Yes, I was just getting out of committee, and we just finished with committee and headed back home when I got the news.
And which committee was that?
Education.
Education.
And of course, we were in session about the time it came out, and we all got text messages, and text messages blew up. And still trying to get more information this morning.
Yeah, what does it exactly mean, and where do we go from here? I think it's a lot. Now, it was just it was a major coincidence that right before the ruling went down, the Senate had a pretty good debate, at least. Senator Trent Garner, Bob Ballinger, Kim Hammer raising some good questions. But they had a debate and went ahead and passed the budget to fund Arkansas Works. Right before a ruling came down saying no work requirements are allowed anymore. It's illegal. Now that goes to the House. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, it's always fun to speculate. But, regardless of what the speculation is of why we did it, what we're doing, the reality is now we come to the House. And I was here and listening to the debate with you in the Senate about how important a vote is and the people that elected me and the other representatives, how important it is for us to vote and represent them on these big decisions. I think the first point I'd say is about not panicking. We don't have to panic, and we need to go as quickly, not panic, but we have to remember the steps that we took before that led us down this path. And we have an opportunity now to take a different path and look at how to move forward. We know our president wants to end this whole program.
President Trump
wants to, I think he's the president of everybody. Some people
he is
vote
now. There's no Russia collusion. He is your president.
He's ours. And he's wanting to roll this whole thing back. So if we know that, what steps are we going to take now? And he's been pretty successful. What steps will we take now to move in that direction? The other part that I heard in this debate, as a member of the House, you are one of 100. And if the administration doesn't need your vote, you have very little leverage. You're expected to go along with, I think that your listeners heard, you're expected to go along with whatever the committee decides, whatever the administration decides. You're expected to go along with that. And I think the House demonstrated a few days ago when we held up all appropriations, we're not willing to do that. And I hope the House will take a strong stand here and not just do what we're told or do what word is passed down from the administration or from the Senate, and stand strong until we have the information we need that we feel comfortable with.
The intersection of conservative ideas and reality. Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
This is our continuing coverage of the 92nd General Assembly. I have been on the road since January 14th. Now, that's not consistent or consecutively in terms of, consecutive weeks. I've been on the road since January 14th, 3 days a week, pretty much. I think we were on the road. I was on the road for 2 days when they had their spring break. And anyway, so I've had a lot of time to drive. Our studio, our main studio where we're broadcasting from today, is in Northeast Arkansas. So we appreciate all of you guys listening across the state. And I will just say I've had a lot of time to think about where we are, where we're going. The futility of political campaign rhetoric. I've had a lot of time to think about that. A couple of weeks ago, I believe this was in the midst of when they were debating one of the gas tax increases. This article popped up from USA Today back on March 21st. A guy from USA Today, Samuel Stebbins, where you'll pay the most and least on state and local taxes in the United States. So where you'll pay the most. So they do a list starting at 50. And they get all the way down to Arkansas, Joe. And Arkansas is number 17. just so you know. That's not a good thing, okay? Not a good thing. That means at all 50 states, Arkansas, according to this list, is the 17th worst place to go. Right? And just to kind of put that in perspective, let's talk about the people that beat us in terms of worst places to live when it comes to taxes. So if you go all the way down to number 1, New York. Okay, well, we clearly know that New York, if they're making the top of this list, that's a pretty good metric because we know New York is taxed to death. Okay, Connecticut. All right, there's Connecticut. Number 2. Number 3, New Jersey. Number 4, California. Number 5, Illinois. Number 6, Wisconsin. Number 7, Maryland. Number 8, Minnesota. 9, Rhode Island. 10, Massachusetts. 11, Vermont. 12, Oregon. 13, Hawaii. 14, Maine. 15, Pennsylvania. 16, Delaware. And 17, Arkansas? Now, out of the states that I just listed, would you think Arkansas would be, I mean, when you take regional values, okay? When you look at regional values and what our campaign rhetoric says, in terms of when Republicans run, should Arkansas be number 17 on this list? You wouldn't think so, would you? But we are. Now, I want you to see. I want you to see this. This is the biggest deal in the Arkansas part, okay? Because this is something that's hidden in here, and you have to understand this. And I hope everybody at the Marble Palace, you people down there that are passing these laws we all have to live under, what you guys are doing that has real consequences. And many of you down there understand that, but a lot of you down there are too flippant to buy an argument just so you can say, well, it's so you're telling me in 6 years it's revenue neutral, so it's not a tax increase. Give me a break. The people need their money. We need to keep our money. It is hard to be an Arkansan with the size and scope of government that we have right now. That's the bottom line. It is harder to live in Arkansas than it is other southern states around us. Period. Listen to this right here. Arkansas is number 17 worst place to live when it comes to taxes. The second line under that, income per capita. We have a per capita income in Arkansas of $41,046. Now, you see in the parentheses there, see what it says? The 6th lowest. So, Joe, once again, what's 50 minus 6? 44. All right. So you're telling me that we are the 17th highest taxed state in the country, and we're the 44th lowest per capita income. Does anyone think that those two numbers relate to one another directly? That if we are one of the worst places to live when it comes to taxes that we have to pay to our government, and we also, and the reason, see, one of those numbers drives the other. Okay, we'd have a lot more. We'd be able to keep more of our own money. We'd be able to invest it. We're a poor state because we're such a high tax state. My screen is glitching out here. Hang on a second. Like a year and a half ago, I was driving down the road and like 5 deer came out, and I slammed on my brakes, and my laptop computer slammed into the dash of my car, and my screen has never worked the same. All right. So taxes paid as percentage of income, 10.1%. Income per capita, 41,000. Income tax collections per capita, 931. Property tax collections per capita, 699. General sales tax collections per capita. We're number 8. We're the 8th highest. We are the 8th highest general sales tax collections per person. Number 8. Now, I don't know if people are down there paying attention. And listen, I know you can't fix it all at once. I get that. And I'm talking to the Republicans at the Marble Palace. I understand you can't fix it all at once. But if my memory serves me correct, we've been voting for Republicans in this state since 2010 in droves. It's almost been a decade. It's almost been a decade. And you come to us and you're coming back with these results. Something's not right here. It's almost been a decade. Arkansas is an average liberal state when it comes to our economic freedom and the economic environment. We are essentially a middle-of-the-run blue state, like an average blue state. It would be so nice to be an average red state in terms of tax policy and everything else, but we're not there yet. We have people that act like we're there, but we're not. Now, I'm going to bring this next point up because it needs repeating over and over and over again. The president pro temp of the Senate, a Republican, 2 weeks ago, proposed an earned income tax credit, welfare program, and he had a press conference where he was flanked by a bunch of Democrats. They put the photo up on their Democratic website. They had a press release about it, and then they took it down. Now, and then that bill passed the full Republican Senate. The Republican-controlled Senate then passed a bill with massive tax increases on tobacco and vaping and an earned income tax credit welfare program. And there were Republicans that I guess they've never, I don't know if they ever read a book or something. I mean, do you not understand these policies that you're voting on? I know people tell you what they are, but do you have a grasp of economic policies, government programs? And this little number, Arkansas, 17th worst place to live, according to USA Today, when it comes to taxes, and we're in the 44th in income. And people say, well, but we're conservative. We've got all these conservative states. We've got, these Republicans who are in leadership. They enjoy all of this praise. Well, I'm just here to point out the obvious to you. It's not about what you say, it's about what you do. And in this case, my goodness, the Democrat Party's on the run. They're shrinking here in the state. The Republican Party of Arkansas, just for spite, defeated the Democrat State Representative Michael John Gray, who is also the chairman of the Democrat Party. They did it because, hey, wouldn't it be funny if he lost? And then he lost. And then you're going to give the Democrats an earned income tax credit, which is a policy that they've been wanting for the last at least 3 sessions, and Republicans were voting it down. Then we should be getting more conservative the more we win elections, not less conservative, right? Why would we want to backslide? Why would we want to backtrack even further? We're 17th worst place to live when it comes to paying taxes to our government. And we're 44th in income. Those two numbers, something you need to tell everybody you see. Every single body, every person you see that doesn't know that we are, and this is what was mentioned at the Tea Party, that doesn't know that we're 17, according to this list, 17 worst when it comes to paying taxes, and 44th in per capita income. And these people want to talk about economic development. They want to talk about an internet sales tax. They want to talk about giving money away to the Chinese. Give me a break. The emperor has no clothes. The emperor has no clothes, and you've got yes men down there, I'm just being honest, that are telling him he's got clothes on. It's a joke. It is a joke right now. Now, I have done my best, and it's probably not good enough, but I have done my best attempting to tell you when positive things happen. Okay? We finally got a good school choice bill that was Senator Blake Johnson, supported by the governor. I believe it's now going to the House Ed Committee. It's not going to do very well there, I don't think, but good job. Well, we also have an income tax cut, $95 million in some point in the next 2 years, eventually. Okay, that's good, bringing it from the high bracket from 6.9 to 5.9. Fantastic. Unfortunately, they came back and made everything up by passing taxes on the wholesale gas and diesel, not wanting to allow a half-cent sales tax to expire. Again, we are the 8th highest in sales tax in the country. Then they come back and they want to raise taxes on your cell phones to pay for 911s. And I get it. The counties are hurting, but guess what? No one wants to talk about the $138 million that we're spending on able-to-work adults to have free health care through Blue Cross Blue Shield. No one wants to talk about that because we were only supposed to spend $50 million according to the governor's estimates 3 years ago. And now here we are spending $138 million, and people are wondering, well, that's the answer. That's why they keep coming to us, because we have no fiscal restraint, and we've committed to welfare programs that we simply can't afford. So is it any surprise that if we're taxing our people to the point where we rank 17th worst in the nation when it comes to living here, and we have an income per capita, average income per capita, $41,046, which is the 6th lowest in the nation. Is it any wonder that we are a welfare state here in Arkansas? Is it any wonder that we are a welfare state with those two numbers? And we all have to pretend like everything's fine. Many people down there. Now, I can't say enough about the House of Representatives and the great work that they did on Friday, voting down an $8 billion appropriation for the time being so that they can get their questions answered after a federal judge struck Asa Hutchinson's key state achievement, Arkansas Works, was just struck down. So I can't say enough about them pushing pause, standing up to the power structures down there. So as critical as I am of the inaction and the tax increases that I just disagree with, I just want to say I appreciate the House's leadership when it comes to standing up to the governor and him attempting to get this appropriation rammed through without some serious public discussion and assurances about what we do moving forward. And that needs to happen. But this number right here, Arkansas 17, Arkansas 46, or so 44th, they are linked, in my opinion. Now, over to Conduit News, we have a headline, clarification needed from Arkansas Republicans, please respond. The Republican Party of Arkansas includes this principle in its platform: lower taxes to produce economic growth. Now, let me stop here. Dan Douglas, a Republican, who apparently is also now pro-choice and pro-assisted suicide, Dan Douglas, a Republican, is claiming that we must raise taxes to produce economic growth. He claimed that in committee last week saying that the internet sales tax, which is more money out of the people's pockets, is about economic development. We thought that was an easy principle to understand. Lower taxes to produce economic growth. We thought it meant lowering the overall tax burden on Arkansans. But based upon the actions of Governor Asa Hutchinson and the voting record of many Republicans in the legislature, either the principle doesn't mean what we think or politicians are ignoring this principle. While the legislature has passed tax reductions for some groups of taxpayers, the legislature has been even busier passing taxes to take tax relief back and to increase the burden on most taxpayers. New laws have been passed to increase taxes on gasoline, diesel fuel, your cell phone service, and cigarettes, and other items. The legislature is putting a proposed amendment to the Constitution on the 2020 ballot to impose a permanent half-cent sales tax when a temporary half-cent sales tax expires in 2023. The Senate has passed an internet sales tax on your purchases from out-of-state stores. The House of Representatives has passed a proposal to increase water system taxes added to your water bill. We haven't talked about this one. And there are other tax increase proposals being championed by, wait for it, Republicans. A Republican bill to give you a small increase in the homestead property tax credit got sidetracked by leadership. A new bill that was passed by the Senate still lets you have a small increase in the credit, but leadership put a rider on the bill to raid much of the surplus in Property Tax Relief Trust Fund and use it for something other than property tax relief. Update, that bill has since been amended to transfer the money not to general revenue, but to the Long-Term Reserve Fund. That sounds good, doesn't it? You've got to know what the Long-Term Reserve Trust Fund is, though. Or the Long-Term Reserve Fund, rather. You got to know what that is. Sounds good, right? We'll have more on that later. Yes, there has been some good legislation, and there are legislators that deserve credit for that good legislation. If that was all they did, but the good has been outweighed by the bad. If you dig a hole but spend half your time putting dirt back in, you aren't getting anywhere. The same is true of reducing taxes while increasing taxes. If you are an Arkansas Republican, your party platform includes the principle, lower taxes to produce economic growth. What does that mean to you? Does it mean lower taxes for some Arkansans and increased taxes on everyone else? Is it merely a vague suggestion? We want to hear what Republican voters think this principle means. We are especially interested in hearing from officers of the state party, the platform committee, the members of the Republican county committees. I mean, listen, I know there are diehard supporters of establishment Republicans in some of these county committees, but at what point do you say, gosh, the evidence against these guys not really believing what they say is overwhelming? I mean, it's one thing to have one session, but then another session. Republican county committees in Faulkner, Johnson, Randolph, Washington have spoken by passing resolutions opposing several bills that include tax increases. A staunch minority of Republican legislators have been battling to stop wasteful spending, to stop tax increases. Thank you. We do need to be thankful for the small minority, the 20 or so, and it varies. It can, 20, 26, it can, 18, but depending on the bill, but we do have 20 in the House for sure, solid Republicans, and we need to be thankful for them. If you're like-minded, they need your help because they're being bombarded from all sides, from the governor, big government legislators in their own party, Democrats, bureaucrats, the lobbyists, the special interests. Arkansas taxes are high. The cost of state government per person is one of the highest in the nation. Arkansas is not just surrounded by states with lower taxes. Arkansas's tax system is worse than nearly every other state. Check this out. It's up at conduitnews.com, courtesy of Conduit for Action. We're going to take a break. Back in a minute.
Are you a conservative-minded young person and want to let the world know about it? Are you tired of rolling your eyes as your professor regurgitates progressive, PC, neo-Marxist nonsense? Then you should interview on Conduit News Radio's Young Conservative segment and tell us about why you believe the way you do. Tell us how you came to be a conservative and what are your views on government. Now, if you're worried that your neo-Marxist professor may also be a right-wing talk radio listening masochist, then names can be changed to protect the innocent. It's the Conduit News Radio Conservative Future segment. To be interviewed, call 870-275-9799. That's 870-275-9799. Russellville-based firearms manufacturer Omega are making clones of the most notable German firearms in the world. These delayed rotor-lock firearms have been and are currently used by law enforcement and military worldwide. At Omega, they manufacture their guns right here in Arkansas and produce the best reproduction in the marketplace that comes with a complete 5-year warranty. At Omega, they take firearm manufacturing seriously and offer discounts to active and retired law enforcement. Whether you're using Omega firearms to defend the public, defend your family, or for target practice, Omega has your back. For pricing, go to omega-guns.com. That's omega-guns.com. If you're like me, you believe that small business is the heart of Arkansas's economic engine, and it should be viewed that way by the politicians in Little Rock. Conduit for Commerce also believes, like you and I believe, policies that achieve less regulation and lower taxation help small business in Arkansas thrive. Other policies like small, constitutionally consistent government and reducing citizen dependency on government keeps it from growing and expanding its influence on our daily lives. Conduit for Commerce works every day to educate the general public and legislators on these important priorities in the name of Arkansas small business. By the way, contributions to Conduit for Commerce are tax deductible. Log on now to conduitforcommerce.org and click on Contact Us on the right side of the page. That's conduitforcommerce.org. Go there now and learn the facts on protecting small business in Arkansas.
To vote on this DHS budget, because once it passes, we have no more power to change what goes on. I think Representative Ballinger or Senator Ballinger spoke to that.
Yes.
Senator Hammer spoke to that. Senator Garner spoke to that. That's all the power that we have as one of 100 is to vote as a group to say, no, we just want more information, and I'm not voting yes until I have more information out there.
Yeah.
That's critical, and I hope the House members will stand together. And I will say this for the House leadership. They have been very transparent. You know, our Speaker, Matt Shepard, is out there among the members. He's talking to the members. We have our leadership structure that talks to us and shares information. So I really appreciate that. And so my comments are in no way disparage our House leadership. But they'll need to understand, too, that I, as an individual representative of my...
Exposing the truth and everything the Marble Palace establishment keep trying to cover up. It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
All right, Joe, real quick, you've got a tweet here. Charlie Kirk, who's Turning Point USA. I feel like this is something that you need to share with us. You found it on Facebook. It was a posted clip of the tweet. Real quick, what does it say?
Yeah, so I actually found the tweet. It says, Democrats in 2015, everyone must accept the results of the election. Democrats, day after the election of 2016. We do not accept the results of the election. Democrats 2017. Everyone must accept the findings of the Mueller report. Democrats 2019. We do not accept the findings of the Mueller report.
It is.
You are included in everyone, Democrats. You are included in everyone.
Yeah, exactly. Unbelievable. Yeah, everyone must, unless we change our minds. Yeah, that's good. That's good. Hypocrisy abounds, man, when it comes to that. That is just ridiculous. But maybe William Barr lied in his 4-page summary. Yeah, okay, the guy risked his whole career and decided to lie about a 400-page report. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Don't hold your breath.
The news and talk of Northeast Arkansas. This is News Talk 101.3 FM and 12:30 AM KBTM, Jonesboro, an EAB radio station.
My district want to have the knowledge that I need to be confident we're going to go forward in a direction that I see and view that represents my people.
Yeah.
And that's not a promise. That is the real data and the real information and public statements as to where we're going so that people will be accountable.
It seems like if you go listen to Senator Hendren's comments from yesterday on the floor, he said several times, look, we've only got 12 days left of the session. Well, you know, if you got to stay down there longer to get it right, I mean, the judge did what the judge did. I mean, in my opinion, you've thrown a wrench in the entire session because now you guys do have constitutional power and you have the ability to say, okay, whoa. I mean, how often does a problem arise in the middle of session? A lot of the times we've seen this before where the books get cooked. We didn't know about redeterminations, for example, 4 years ago, 3 years ago, not being done until after you guys were out of session. You know what I mean?
Well, matter of fact, Paul, I was the chair of the Medicaid subcommittee on audit when we found out that we had 20 or 30,000 people in 1 year that were living in other states that we had been paying $500 or $600 a month for 15 or 16, 18,000 people. We didn't find that out for 3 or 4 years after the program.
Yeah, exactly.
And Medicaid said, oh, sorry, it was just a glitch when they hadn't done their job. So when we roll up all the cost in the waste, the fraud, and the abuse, it may be time to make some determinations now that we go with Josh Miller's bill.
Yes.
You know, Josh has a bill out there to move away from this program, go back to a fee-for-service, and take a step in a different direction. And, you know, as far as 12 days left in the session, we don't have to solve this problem in 12 days, but I want some public promises, and I want some guarantees that are where people will be held accountable for the direction we're going to go. So for someone to come to me privately and say, Dan, we promise you that we're going to do this, vote yes, and we'll do A, B, C, D. You know, I'm just not there. I want some confidence that we're going to change the direction we're in, because we certainly know what we've been doing has not worked. We are pulling money from other programs. You know, I have a meeting later this morning with DHS about Our Choices, the program that takes care of our elderly. And we have cut those programs significantly and made some good choices in that, I'll say. But we've also kind of lost sight of who the most needy are. And we're taking care of people who are able-bodied, working-age adults. We're taking care of them, and the people that we're missing are some of the most needy people and deserving people in the state of Arkansas.
Yeah.
And are we going to change that direction, or are we going to continue down this path? And I will not vote for a program that doesn't prioritize the people who are most needy in our state.
Exactly. And you know, and if we go back, I mean, if you have any sort of memory at all, you'll remember that they cut $835 million. They call it savings, but they took that from the needy population so that they can pay for this expanded population, and we still can't afford it. I mean, you know, you've been on the program before. We're talking with State Representative Dan Sullivan. They said that this year the estimate was from the government we were supposed to spend $50 million this year, our share, the state share on the match that the federal government was paying for this program, and we're spending 138, almost 140 million this year instead. So their estimates are way off. And you know, now that there are no work requirements moving forward, you got to assume the program's going to balloon back up to where it was, 300,000 people.
Absolutely. And those are the kinds of assurances that I need, not just a promise, Dan, don't worry, vote with us. You know, those are the kinds of promises that I need publicly, where people will be held accountable at all levels, at the Senate, at the House, and in the administration, that we're going to change this path. Again, to prioritize the people who are most needy in our state, that we have a moral obligation to take care of and help, and we have a fiscal responsibility there also. So I'm going to need some assurances of that. And if someone comes to me and says, Dan, vote for this program. Don't worry about it. I'm just not going to be able to do that, and I hope the House will stand up.
Let's talk about Josh Miller's bill. I think it's HB, just going off memory, 1929.
I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers.
They seem to be in full-scale retreat from spending cuts and are talking about raising people's taxes again. And I have only one thing to say to the tax increasers. Go ahead, make my day.
If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Those who would trade our freedom for security have embarked on this downward course. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is on now.
My goodness. I will tell you this. I'm going to get to this story briefly here in just a minute. CBS News did an entire story on two coyotes at the border, casting them as humanitarians, completely helping immigrants to survive the crossing, completely ignoring the darkest side of this entire border security issue. Unbelievable. We'll get more on that here in a minute. Welcome. It's hour number 2 of the program, Intersection of Conservative Ideas and Reality, in our continuing coverage of the 92nd General Assembly. We once again have and want to welcome Josh Roll Call Waters is back with us. Josh, how are you, sir?
Hey, good morning, Paul. I'm doing well. How are y'all this morning?
Man, we're doing fantastic. So we want to get to this scorecard. What week are we on, Josh?
So they just wrapped up last week, week 11. So this is week 11 scorecard, recapping last week and then highlighting some bills that were filed during last week that may be running this week. So looks like just 2 weeks left. They should be recessing sometime middle end of next week.
Yeah.
So we're almost through.
Okay, so we're almost through. Let's start with this first one, and we interviewed Senator Blake Johnson last week. SB 539, school choice tax credit. Tell us about this.
Yes, so this, is the bill that kind of led to a lot of confusion end of last week at the Capitol. But this is a school choice tax credit bill. It would be for any student in the state. The other bill was started at Pulaski County students. It's a straight tax credit, so people can donate to a private organization. The private organization oversees the school choice scholarship, and then people receive a credit against their income taxes. And it can be up to $3 million total for the state. So that's $3 million, hit to general revenue instead of just the discretionary fund of the governor. So, again, very similar to what the bill highlighted last week on the scorecard and Senator Johnson filed. I will let people know this bill, as people remember last week, ran and was passed in the Senate Revenue and Tax Committee, but has now been referred to the House Education Committee. So I think that's going to be a pretty tall lift, getting the school choice bill out of the House Education Committee instead of going to the House Revenue and Tax Committee. I think it probably would have had a easier path in the House Revenue and Tax Committee.
Yeah, I think you're right. That was kind of the plan. But if it's been assigned to the House Education, that is going to be a tough uphill battle because I just don't think they have the votes there on this particular school choice bill, which is sad because we have Republicans that just don't seem to want to support school choice. Again, we're talking with Josh Waters. We're going over a few bills. This is a good bill. Again, the school choice tax credit, SB 539. Moving on now, we have a Democrat sponsor for this next bill that is a good bill, HB 1928. What can you tell us about this?
Well, this is a simple, straightforward bill, and it provides more transparency. This bill would say that public meetings that have to be either audio or video recorded You have to save that for at least 1 year, and it has to be in a format in which the public can get it through a Freedom of Information Act. So it opens up for all public meetings. You're going to get an audio and video recording that you can FOIA. So a lot more transparency in government. So a good, honest, open government bill.
That's pretty easy. And it's by State Representative Vivian Flowers, correct?
Yes, yep. So, Representative Flowers, Democrat. I think most all the co-sponsors, there might be a few Republicans, but mostly it's a Democrat bill. But, when you look at the policy, it's a good policy and stands on its own merit. So,
yeah.
Good bill.
Transparency, it's a good thing. So that's HB 1920. That's an easy one to support. I mean, that's a common sense bill right there, just on the merits. So let's go to the next one. Okay, so this next one's a doozy. HB 1929 supports State Representative Josh Miller's bill. Let's go ahead and throw this up on the screen. Josh, what can you tell us?
So this straightforward bill, it's pretty long. It has a lot of different details, setting up a task force to study a transition. But at the end of the day, this bill would end the current form of the Obamacare Medicaid expansion program, Arkansas Works, and it would change it to a fee-for-service program. And, Paul, at the end of the day, we just think that's going to be a cheaper and better alternative for the taxpayer. Right now, the taxpayer every month is paying almost $600 a month per person. And then when you look at that, that's, I think the latest number is 240,000 people. They're paying $600 for each one of those people per month for a health insurance program. That money goes straight to these big insurance companies. And regardless if they ever use their health insurance, ever see a doctor, ever use any type of health service, that money is guaranteed to go out and is being paid by the taxpayer. So this would shift that and say, hey, we're just going to pay for actual health services that are used under a more traditional fee-for-service model that traditional Medicaid is on. Now, it would be once we go up to the 90-10 match rate, it would follow that match rate under expanded Medicaid. But at the end of the day, this ends the Arkansas Works program. It stops this huge flow, $2 billion of money to these big insurance companies, and just says the taxpayer is just going to pay for actual health services that
you know, there was testimony back in, I believe it was 2013, when they were running this, when they were trying to pass this private option to begin with. And one of the things that the numbers came out eventually that, you can fund this through traditional Medicaid, and it ends up costing around $280 a person a month. Now I'm sure that number may be different now, but it was always going to be more expensive to put the middleman in, and to pay the insurance companies. And now that per person cost has done nothing but rise, because that's what insurance seems to do as well, right? For those of us who don't get it free, it continues to rise, and it's taxpayer money being spent and given to these insurance companies, and the insurance companies are happy. And as a matter of fact, now that Arkansas Works has been struck, or the work requirement has, it's a perfect situation to at least consider Josh Miller's bill, and to really talk about, well, what are the costs? And State Representative Grant Hodges brought up the governor's own words after Arkansas Works passed the last time. He said it's a good thing it passed because Medicaid is not fiscally sustainable without the work requirement. Well, now the work requirement is gone. So is that still a true statement? And should we look at maybe going to something that we know is demonstrably, you can prove it, it is going to be cheaper for the taxpayer if we just only paid for somebody's medical bills on Medicaid when they went to the doctor or a healthcare provider? Josh?
Yeah, at the end of the day, that's where we're at. Medicaid extension is it's the law. And if they're looking at ways to save money and looking at other options and plans right after this court case, I think this bill is in a perfect position to be heard, be debated in committee on the House floor. So I think it's a good bill. It improves the situation. And Paul, there's some other big ripple effects with this bill, honestly. One is kind of the racket we have here with this premium insurance tax. That's going to improve things. That's going to be less tax on those plans. But also, this $2 billion, you can just look at the state of Arkansas politics, and you see the increase 2, 3, 4, 5 times the amount of money in these elections and these races since the private option passed. That huge inflow of healthcare money has also found its way back into the political election process and lobbying process. If you suck a lot of that money out, I think you're going to suck a lot of that huge big government, big, socialized medicine influence as well, at least damper it a little. So big ripple effects as well moving to this type of system.
Josh Waters, it's always great. We have 3 bills on the scorecard, 3 bills to support, and it's always great having you on. Appreciate the work that you're doing, keeping the public informed, sir.
Yes, sir. Well, appreciate you, Paul.
All right.
Just encourage everyone to stay with it another week and a half, and they can let go of their wallets for a little while.
Yeah, they can, but they're going to be a lot lighter, a lot thinner. Josh, appreciate it. I'll see you in Little Rock, sir.
All righty. Have a good one.
All righty. Folks, we're going to take a quick break here, going to reset, and I want to talk about these new allegations of Peter Schweitzer. I told you I would at the end of the program yesterday. Of course, it's the author of Clinton Cash, and he's now got a new book saying that they're getting around, they're making these politicians corrupt by enriching their kids, okay? That, like the Chinese are paying the kids of some of these, like Joe Biden's kid, got a bunch of money from... got a bunch of money from the Chinese and that sort of thing. By the way, Joe Biden is all those photos out there. We talked about this in the first hour. It's really creepy, really creepy. You have street magician David Blaine being investigated by the NYPD for sexual assault. 2 allegations from 2 different women, and you also have Joe Biden, who is just all these photos and videos of him creepily touching women and little girls. We're going to take a break. Back in just a moment.
Sounds right. It's a bill, like you said, that would keep Medicaid expansion, but it would just end the Blue Cross Blue Shield's tax. I mean, we would no longer use private insurance. It would just be the way it originally was under Obamacare, which is the state of Arkansas doesn't pay a dime unless somebody actually goes and gets medical care.
Right.
At this point, that is now, by the book, by the numbers, demonstrably less expensive than what we're doing now, right?
Yeah, and I think those costs, I don't think those costs include the waste, fraud, and abuse.
You're right.
How much have we spent in computer software, changing programs and losing people? We spent a tremendous amount of money there. I think we guarantee the insurance company a 20% margin on their cost, on their profit. 20% of that is guaranteed profit. And to take a look at what a fee-for-service program would look.
In Arkansas, every single hour there is a politician not getting what they want. For some, it's an absolute nightmare. The sleepless nights wondering if progress will ever come. Lying awake pondering how to grow government in this political climate. Asking questions like, why don't my constituents want to pay a few cents more in taxes? Everyday politicians feel abused and neglected. These politicians are starving for power. They're hungry, confused, and they don't understand why no one seems to care. Will you be a patriot and commit today to help these poor, starved for power public officials? It's simple. All you have to do is commit to stay silent and never dissent or stand in the way of your politicians' rise to power. Never speak up or get engaged to stop the growth of government. By committing to these simple steps, you will ensure the life of your politician will be filled with contentment and the respect they are desperately seeking, as well as campaign contributions from lobbyists.
This message brought to you by Aristocrats Serving Arkansas.
PHP Parody. Determined to drain the swamp in Little Rock, it's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Real quick, welcome back. Happy Tuesday. It's time, though, for an Alexandria Cortez update. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez recently said this. Joe, go ahead.
Okay, so this is the headline article, or it's the article headline. It's epic fail. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is slammed for claiming the GOP changed the Constitution to prevent FDR from being reelected when the 22nd Amendment was drafted 2 years after his death. So, Representative Cortez claimed Constitution of the United States was altered to make sure Roosevelt did not get reelected. FDR was elected president 4 times and died in April 1945, less than 3 months into his 4th term. But the Constitution was not amended to prevent FDR from winning re-election.
Okay.
This 22nd Amendment, which sets a 2-term limit for presidents, was only approved by Congress in 1947, 2 years after FDR's death.
Yeah. So the reason I wanted you to read that is because, okay, she is now complaining that her brand is suffering because so many people are making fun of her. And, yeah, I know. Because she is constantly doing this for us, though. She's saying things that are factually proven not true. And when you're a United States Congresswoman, you're going to get scrutinized, right? And so she just says these things that aren't true, and then she gets upset when she's corrected and made fun of and made into conservative meme material. Joe was telling me during the break that the people on the right, again, the right is for comedy. The right is for comedy. The right is for lightheartedness. The right is for laughter. The left is for censorship, and the left is anti-comedy and anti-laughter. Because when you laugh, things get lighter and you can find common ground. And the left isn't in the business of common ground. They have to divide us. So those on the right are meme lords. Right, Joe? This was something that you said, that those on the right, on the political right, when it comes to memes, they are meme lords. For example, you have Joe Biden, once again, he's in the news for making little girls feel uncomfortable because there are these 2 grown women that say, he smelled my hair and kissed me on the head, and they felt sexually, awkward at the very least, okay? And I think all of us could imagine that if Joe Biden, did that, it would be weird. It would be very weird. And so now you have all these videos resurfacing that have been around the internet before of Joe Biden making little girls very uncomfortable at the swearing-in ceremonies of their parents. And there's no way around it. Go look at the photos, go look at the videos. It's very creepy. So what does the right do? Well, the right starts to meme about it. And so they came out with this suit of spike armor that they would they said if you've got to go, if your kid has to get his picture made with Joe Biden, this is the outfit they need to wear, which is an armor with little spikes. It's like all over the faces and shoulders and stuff. And so Joe Biden can't touch them. It's like a porcupine suit. Then there was another meme that just came out where you had Jussie Smollett and Uncle Joe photoshopped together. And what did Jussie say? What did Uncle Joe? What was he whispering into Jussie's ear in the meme? Oh yeah, whispering into his ear. This is Biden country. You see the sense of humor that we have on the right, and the left just doesn't get it, right? So there's this new book out, Peter Schweitzer. This from the Daily Wire. Peter Schweitzer, Government Accountability Institute president and author of best-selling book Clinton Cash, a book that played a pivotal role in the 2016 election, has a new investigative book on government corruption that involves a series of accusations involving billions of dollars against some major political players, including former Vice President Joe Biden, former Secretary of State John Kerry, and Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. Over the last week, Schweitzer has spoken with Fox News' Sean Hannity a few times about some of the key claims in the book, particularly claims against the current Democratic presidential frontrunner in the polls. Biden Biden. As Schweitzer explained in an interview with Hannity last week, his new book, Secret Empires, How the American Political Class Hides Corruption and Enriches Family and Friends, contains details about what he says is a corruption scandal involving Biden and his son, Hunter. Quote, "This is the new corruption, Sean, and it's not the corruption of $90,000 in your freezer. This is a major amount of money." Schweitzer told Hannity, noting at times these deals include billions of dollars. It involves foreign governments who want to influence our leaders, and the way they get around disclosures, the way they get around the law is they don't give the money to the politician. They don't even give it to their spouse. They give it to their kids, and they give it to a sibling, or they give it to a sibling. And that's a way that it avoids detection. The amounts of money are massive. Schweitzer then got into some specifics related to Biden and his son Hunter. For example, there are 3 major deals involving the Chinese government and family members, close aides of Secretary of State John Kerry, Vice President Joe Biden. Basically, what happens is, in 2013, Joe Biden flies to China to talk to them about very sensitive issues, the South China Sea, talking about trade issues, economic issues. Hunter Biden, his son, is with him on Air Force 2. That's fine. That's great. Here's the problem. 10 days after they come back, after Joe Biden takes a pretty soft position toward the Chinese, Hunter Biden inks what becomes a $1.5 billion private equity deal. That's the first of 3 deals, Schweitzer explains, along with 2 other deals they're talking about. Multiple billion-dollar deals, none of which had to be disclosed, said Schweitzer. Okay? Stuffing tens of thousands of dollars into a freezer has morphed into multi-billion-dollar equity deals done in dark corners of the world. An American bank opening in China would be prohibited by U.S. law from hiring a slew of family members of top Chinese politicians. However, a Chinese bank opening in America can hire anyone it wants. It can even invite the friends and families of American politicians to invest in can't-lose deals. President Donald Trump's children have made front pages across the world for their dicey transactions. However, the media has barely looked into questionable deals made by those close to Barack Obama, Joe Biden, John Kerry, Mitch McConnell, and lesser-known politicians who have been in the game longer. Again, Peter Schweitzer now barking up an entirely bipartisan tree, if you can catch my drift. I find this fascinating, absolutely fascinating. Now, I want to bring this home to Arkansas. We had all of these politicians in Arkansas, a lot of them are in jail, some of them not yet, in my opinion, who were involved in these massive Medicaid fraud deals where all this Medicaid money's coming in. They're a consultant or they're an attorney. They're getting all this kickback, and we want to reform the Medicaid, right? We want to reform the ethics of our politicians. Brian King, former Senator Brian King, had a way to do that through disclosure. Notice this article talks about disclosure. And guess what? They couldn't get it passed. They still haven't run it this session. Nobody wants to disclose Medicaid contracts. Nobody wants to disclose if their spouse or if they themselves are now a consultant being paid by some Medicaid entity. Nobody wants to do it. Now, why? Well, we can't make it hard on somebody to be a legislator and an attorney. They still need to be allowed to be an attorney, don't they? That's exactly what they would say here in Washington, D.C., if, in fact, they ever tried to tackle the ethics of your kids getting all this money from Chinese governments in exchange for soft policies, when it comes to the United States policies against their governments. For example, they'd say, well, people need to have private family lives. We don't need, just because you're a politician, that doesn't mean you sacrifice the privacy of your family. That's what they would say, right? Very similar. Trickle-down corruption. Let me tell you this. As President Donald Trump begins to weed out the corruption and publicize it with what went on to the FBI, the Department of Justice, and our intel community and the international intel community, what they've done to him, as he begins to expose it, I hope we have trickle-down exposing of all the corruption. That's what I hope. Because right now we got trickle-down. We got people emulating what's going on the global scale right here in Arkansas. We're going to take a break. Back in just a moment.
sounds right. It's a bill, like you said, that would keep Medicaid expansion, but it would just end the Blue Cross Blue Shield's tax. I mean, we would no longer use private insurance. It would just be the way it originally was under Obamacare, which is the state of Arkansas doesn't pay a dime unless somebody actually goes and gets medical care.
Right.
At this point, that is now by the book, by the numbers, demonstrably less expensive than what we're doing now, right?
Yeah, and I think those costs, I don't think those costs include the waste, fraud, and abuse. You know,
You're right.
How much have we spent in computer software, changing programs and losing people? We spent a tremendous amount of money there. I think we guarantee the insurance company a 20% margin on their cost, on their profit. 20% of that is guaranteed profit. And to take a look at what a fee-for-service program would look like now that we've had 4 or 5 years of programs that's on the books, that we can look at what those numbers are and now compare them directly, not projected numbers, but real numbers on what it's cost us to what the real numbers were on a fee-for-service. And we just need to take a look at that. Now, whether we do that in the next 12 days may not be completely possible, but we've got some pretty good estimates on that now. We've looked at that before. And hopefully Josh will have an opportunity to bring his bill to the floor and really have that debate and be transparent in what opportunities are. You know, I voted no on the highway program, the governor's highway bill. There were 4 or 5 other bills out there that had, Julie Mabry's, Representative Mabry's bill, several other bills out there. We didn't really have a chance to debate those. We were just
There's only
told,
one plan.
Yeah, we were just told vote for this or don't vote for it. We're not going to debate other plans. And, I hope your listeners will help share that word. There were options out there, not just the one plan. We just didn't get to debate them. Well, now with Arkansas Works, we have a chance to debate what we're going to do going forward. And as your listeners heard in the Senate, people were going to use their vote to hold this budget up to have that debate. And I think this is a great debate to have, and I hope the listeners will call their representatives and ask them to hold everyone accountable, that we have debates over multiple solutions, because there's not just one solution.
Yeah. Well, the whole debate, from what I can tell, I agree with what you're saying, Dan. I think it's great. There has not been
bringing you your daily dose of truth. It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show. Thanks so much for being with us. The telephone number this morning, 870-275-9799. If you want to contribute to the conversation, we'd love to have you. You can call or text. Also, sound off on the Facebook page, facebook.com/Conduit News. And head to the YouTube channel, because we need you to subscribe and then click the little bell to receive notifications on the Conduit News YouTube channel, please, because we'll have smaller interviews that get uploaded throughout the day. Interviews like this one. I want to welcome to the program. We've got Dan Subotnick. He's a professor of law at Touro Law School in Central Islip, New York. Dan, welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. Now, are you a former talk radio host? Did I hear something about that?
No, but I'll accept an offer.
That's fantastic. Well, sorry, I guess I got my facts confused there. But you are a professor of law, but more importantly, you are the author of a book called Toxic Diversity, Race, Gender, and Law Talk in America. Dan Subotnick, tell us about this book, Toxic Diversity. What made you want to write this?
Well, this book arose out of an idea that I have had many years ago, that people weren't speaking honestly about gender and race. I've written a lot about it, and I saw so much evidence to that effect that I decided to take a bunch of things I had been writing and bring them up to date, and I publish this book. But again, it's all born out of the understanding that what we read about race and gender is specious, and it has to be interrogated, and that's what you guys are doing. That's what I do, and it's got to be done.
So when I just read, and I haven't read your book, but when I read the title, Toxic Diversity, one of the things that I've kind of come to accept, and this is a critical view of this idea of diversity, is because when I was right out of college, I worked for a university for a short time, and I quickly realized that diversity means people who look different but think the same. Can you speak to that?
Well, think the same with respect to each other, or with respect to the larger community. I mean, I need to know what you have in mind.
Well, from what I can tell is diversity. When people talk about, well, we need to diverse, they're really just talking about looks. They're not talking about ideas. They're not talking about ideas.
That's true. That's absolutely true. And we don't have. A lot of people have commented on it. It's almost a cliche now to say we don't have diversity of intellectual interests.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean they want. And do you see this as a left-right paradigm? You know, where we have people.
Yes, I do. It's the left that's squeezing to virtually eliminate all kinds of conversations about gender and again race. The right is much more willing to accept these kinds of conversations, and so the squeeze is from the left for sure.
Were you following what happened recently with Jussie Smollett case in Chicago?
Yes. And go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, when we talk about race and we talk about gender, I think gender applies here because he was calling himself the gay Tupac. But it all, to me, I think it might have woken a lot of people up, Dan, in terms of people who think that, this country is just, full of a bunch of, racist, homophobic people. At least exposes this as an issue to use, a fake issue to use to, to galvanize the public. It might be one of these moments where people are like, "Oh my gosh, this is getting out of hand."
I think you're right to an extent. I wouldn't go as far as you. I would say there is an issue there. There certainly is an issue about kind of anti-minority feeling, but at the same time, there's the other issue there that needs to be discussed: the manipulation by minorities of public discourse, and both have to be on the table at the same time.
Well, so how do you square that? Let's talk about that. I mean,
that's hard to square.
It is. I mean, I'm not saying there are no examples of racism or anti-minority sentiment, but I am the guy that's going to say, hey, listen, 8 years after September 11th, where terrorists knocked down our buildings, flew planes into our buildings. America elected a black guy by the name of Barack Hussein Obama. Not once, then they elected him twice. And I feel like that counts for something in terms of saying that, we have these racial problems that we've experienced in our past, the scars of our past, are not demonstrably better than what's portrayed in the mainstream media on a daily basis.
Well, I don't think anybody would disagree that things are better in terms of relations between minority and minority populations. But there's still problems, and serious problems. And the fact that they're better has actually encouraged people to speak up on the left and say, we've gotten this far now. We've seen some progress. Let's build on this and get more progress on the subject.
Yeah.
It's not inconsistent for those two things to exist at the same time.
What is, in your book, again, we're talking with Dan Subotnick. He is a professor of law, and he's author of this book, Toxic Diversity, Race, Gender, and Law Talk in America. What's one of the main things you wanted to accomplish and communicate to the reader when you wrote this book?
Well, my latest thinking is on the subject of sexual assault, and in fact, the official title of this discussion that we're having is "Start by Believing." And so I wrote something recently, last few months, in which I challenged a number of feminists who said that we have to start by believing women. I don't think we have to start by believing women. I think we have to start by listening to women and evaluating what they have to say. And that's my message, and I've written it up for your readers might be interested in the Turo Law Review in the winter issue of this year. And there's been a lot of interest in this topic. There's no question that. Well, let me put it this way. I want to. Do I have a little time here?
Absolutely, yes, sir.
All right. So here's the thing. The argument by feminist activists is that we should listen to women. We should believe women at the outset. But here's the problem. The people who know, and there are very few people with direct experience on this. I'm going to quote from a woman who was a dean at a law school who sat in on all kinds of panels in which she was adjudicating the issue of sexual assault. And here's what she says. And she says this recently, not in 1960. She expected to find widespread comfort with sexuality and confidence and sexual pleasure. But what she discovered was seemingly bottomless pits of shame. Imagine this in 2019, bottomless pits of shame. And this, of course, turned into a lot of complaints about sexual assault. And then she goes on and explains. This shame can lead to the enforcement regime being activated to vindicate honor, to vindicate the woman's honor, to feel some guilt, intense guilt in some cases, over their sexual behavior, provide identities of sexual innocence. Maybe mom thinks I wasn't playing by the rules, and so I'm going to say I was raped. Protect against jealousy. Protect young women from falling from someone's grace. Protect them from falling from good to slut. It's unbelievable. I mean, there are almost no people in America who are writing about what's going on the ground, in the trenches, in the adjudication trenches, both in the law school, not the law schools, the colleges and universities generally, and in the police department. I recently talked to a top cop in the area of sexual assault, and he says the same thing. Many women, not by no means all women, many women, enough to be worrisome. A number of women, he says, simply don't know what the criminal law says about sexual assault. What are the elements of sexual assault? And he finds this over and over again, and he wants this to get out to the public, as I'm doing here.
Okay, so when you say they don't understand the law, so maybe they're made uncomfortable around a man, and they somehow feel sexually threatened, and so they think that's a crime when there actually is no crime. That there is no.
Well, I think that's part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
interesting.
That's what he's saying. Yeah.
Interesting. So, what did you think about the Brett Kavanaugh situation?
Well, my take, and let's see how it matches up with yours, is that Brett Kavanaugh was involved in some rough horseplay with this woman. There was no attempted rape. And he should not have been charged with it, and he should have gone through a little more smoothly. I'm not saying he was a good guy. I mean, what he did was bad, but he was 17 years old at the time, and maybe we can forgive him since he's led a more or less a blameless life since. So,
well, I see.
Yes,
if something did happen, I would tend to think that's probably that was probably the extent of it. But I think the credibility of that particular woman, it was called into question at some point.
It's possible. It's certainly possible. I'm thinking the best case scenario is that the best case scenario is that there was no attempted rape. Best case in the sense of finding him guilty.
Yeah. So
was that there was no rape. It's possible nothing happened. It's possible she made it all up. That would not be unheard of.
It's not unheard of. That's the issue. No. You have to have evidence. And if I would tell anything to young girls or to teenagers or whatever, when something happens, I mean, you need to go to the authorities sooner rather than later. Because that's when you can actually collect the evidence and see what's happened. Now here's the interesting thing, Dan, about this. Yeah. Okay, so Joe Biden is in the news, right? He's got these two women that have come out and said he made me uncomfortable. Now, I think I know why. These are women on the left. They don't think that Joe Biden is the man to get the Democrat nomination to try to challenge President Trump, and I understand that. However, there are a plethora of photos and videos of Joe Biden making women of all ages very uncomfortable. I don't know. Have you seen these where he's,
I have not.
Oh, man. I'm
going to have to look them up.
Yeah, you have to look them up. I guess my point is, and if you haven't seen them, then we can't really discuss it. But there's actually evidence of Joe Biden's past behavior that's out there, where he clearly touches people and makes them feel uneasy.
I know. I know. I had heard about it. I just don't want to speak about it because I haven't read it myself.
Yeah, I understand.
Thank you for alerting me.
Yeah, absolutely. Go check it out. Yeah, the question is evidence.
Tell me what do you want to make out of Joe Biden? I'd be interested.
Oh, well, see, I don't really know. I'm just commenting on it. I don't think there's any crime that's been committed. Again, is it a crime to smell somebody's hair? I mean, but in the left, in today's, in their movement, they're going to destroy Joe Biden. Although, again, go watch those videos. It's extremely creepy of him interacting with some of these women. But my point is, you got to have evidence. Okay, if we're going to go forward, you're at some point you have to have something other than just your word, especially if it happened a long time ago.
Absolutely, and that's what I'm fighting. The idea that you don't have to have evidence. Believe women to start, and that solves the problem.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean that could just be we can't do that, and so at some point we have the situation where is it because of a perceived oppressive patriarchal society that we now feel morally obligated to just believe whatever a woman says?
No, I think this is born out of a sense that the police and DAs have not been taking these complaints seriously when they come in, and so a very small, not a tiny fraction, but let's say this policeman I referred to a little while ago says that out of every 100 complaints that come in, 30 result in arrests. 30 in arrest, not in convictions, in arrests. That tells you something. It tells you that the way his department is looking at these things, either the women are not telling the truth or they're deceiving themselves. Mm-hmm. Either they're deliberately not telling the truth or they're deceiving themselves. And I think it's a combination of both, and there's good evidence that it's a combination of both.
Last question, Dan. We're talking with Dan Subotnick. Again, the title of your book, Toxic Diversity. Why'd you pick that title? What is toxic about diversity?
Well, because once you say diversity, all discussion shuts down. You can't say you don't like diversity. Diversity is an all-purpose good, so it's almost etched into the Declaration of Independence, so to speak. So that's why I chose diversity and toxic, because it leads to all kinds of destructive thinking and acts on the part of the people who hold those views. I mean, for example, women have a lot to do. The activities of women have a lot to do with the fact that they're sexual assaults. The typical case is a woman goes to a party and she gets drunk, and before you know it, she accepts an invitation or invites the guy into the bedroom. Now, I think that something has to be said to the women about this. You can't just do that and continue, and then the next day wake up and say, I was raped. That's not acceptable in this culture, and shouldn't be acceptable. And we have to alert the women and educate young women to the fact that they have obligations to say no, to walk out,
to not get drunk,
and not to get drunk, yes, and not to go into the guy's room in the first place, unless they understand that the pressure is going to be on. Which is not to say that the woman has no right to extricate herself from those situations.
Correct.
She does. But the point is, as a practical matter, it turns out that women aren't comfortable trying to extricate themselves from those situations. They feel they're in too deep. They owe the guy. In any event, there's a part of them that wants what's happening. They're enjoying what's happening. Part of them is enjoying it. And then after the fact, of course, the next morning, the day after that, they talk to their friends, and the friends say, oh, no, you were raped. And that starts a whole chain of events.
Yeah.
It's unnecessary.
Dan Subotnick, it's certainly fascinating where we are, as a culture concerning this issue.
It is.
Your book, Toxic Diversity. You're a professor of law at Truro University and author of this book. Dan, it's been great to talk to you this morning. I appreciate it.
Likewise. Thanks so much for having me.
All right. Yes, sir. Dan Subotnick, everybody. Folks, you can check that book out. Again, Toxic Diversity. It's at Amazon. And you obviously hear from his, his analysis there that this is something that, needs to be discussed. And anyway, we're going to take a break, reset here back in just a moment.
Russellville-based firearms manufacturer Omega are making clones of the most notable German firearms in the world. These delayed rotor-lock firearms have been and are currently used by law enforcement and military worldwide. At Omega, they manufacture their guns right here in Arkansas and produce the best reproduction in the marketplace that comes with a complete 5-year warranty. At Omega, they take firearm manufacturing seriously and offer discounts to active and retired law enforcement. Whether you're using Omega firearms to defend the public, defend your family, or for target practice, Omega has your back. For pricing, go to omega-guns.com. That's omega-guns.com. Are you a conservative-minded young person and want to let the world know about it? Are you tired of rolling your eyes as your professor regurgitates progressive, PC, neo-Marxist nonsense? Then you should interview on Conduit News Radio's Young Conservative segment and tell us about why you believe the way you do. Tell us how you came to be a conservative and what are your views on government. Now, if you're worried that your neo-Marxist professor may also be a right-wing talk radio listening masochist, then names can be changed to protect the innocent. It's the Conduit News Radio Conservative Future segment. To be interviewed, call 870-275-9799. That's 870-275-9799. If you're like me, you believe that small business is the heart of Arkansas's economic engine, and it should be viewed that way by the politicians in Little Rock. Conduit for Commerce also believes, like you and I believe, policies that achieve less regulation and lower taxation help small business in Arkansas thrive. Other policies like small, constitutionally consistent government and reducing citizen dependency on government keeps it from growing and expanding its influence on our daily lives. Conduit for Commerce works every day to educate the general public and legislators on these important priorities in the name of Arkansas small business. By the way, contributions to Conduit for Commerce are tax deductible. Log on now to conduitforcommerce.org and click on Contact Us on the right side of the page. That's conduitforcommerce.org. Go there now and learn the facts on protecting small business in Arkansas.
It seems like the willingness to do what you say in a very, very long time,
Well, it takes you got to have, more, you have to have 26 votes to stop it.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult. When I came into the House 2 sessions ago, we had 40 people said they were going to stand up. We had a couple of votes, and by the end, I think there were 15 or 16
left.
Yeah. And so there's just a lot of pressure to take the solution that's handed down without having a very transparent debate. And sometimes those happen behind the scenes, and I'm okay with that. However, it's behind the scenes. They want transparency out there, and the people deserve that. That's our form of government.
We're talking with State Representative Dan Sullivan. If you're just joining us, I'll go over a few of these.
Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is building a liberty machine. Find out more at conduitnews.com.
Last week, a federal judge in California blocked their high-capacity magazine ban. High-capacity gun magazines will remain legal in California after a ruling Friday by a federal judge who cited home invasions where a woman used the extra bullets in her weapon to kill an attacker, while in other 2 cases, women without additional ammunition ran out of bullets. Quote, individual liberty and freedom are not outmoded concepts, San Diego-based U.S. District Judge Robert Benitez wrote as he declared unconstitutional the law that would have banned possessing any magazines holding more than 10 bullets. Quote, individual liberty and freedom are not outmoded concepts.
Someone in
This is huge from California. There is hope, ladies and gentlemen. The light, at least in this instance, exposes the darkness. California law has prohibited buying or selling magazines since 2000. But those who had them before were allowed to keep them. In 2016, the legislature and voters approved a law removing that provision. The California arm of the National Rifle Association and Benitez sided with the group's argument that banning the magazine infringes on the Second Amendment right to bear arms. Benitez had temporarily blocked the law from taking effect with the 2017 ruling. Chuck Michael, an attorney for the National Rifle Association and the California Rifle and Pistol Association, said the judge's latest ruling may go much further by striking the entire ban, allowing individuals to legally acquire high-capacity magazines for the first time in nearly 2 decades. We're still digesting the opinion, but it appears to us that he struck down both the latest ban on possessing by those who are grandfathered in, but also said that everyone has a right to acquire one. Man, if you're the California Rifle and Pistol Association in California, what a sad organization. I'm just saying, like, you guys don't get very many victories, you know. Here in Arkansas, we can open and conceal carry without a permit. So, I'm very thankful for the status of Arkansas's gun laws. We need to make sure we keep them just like they are. In terms of, we don't need to go backwards. Let's see, what else do we have here? Okay, in other news, we have the term limits. A term limits ballot issue cleared the House with just 51 votes yesterday, meaning it passed the Senate, it passed the House. They amended it a little bit. It's going to have to go back to the Senate, but this might wind up on your ballots. By Senator Alan Clark, it would take the term limits from 16 years and move them to 12, but you could be a lifetime legislator, meaning you can serve 12 years and have to sit out 4, then you could serve 12 more again, okay? And I believe, now, so originally this came out, and this had, the title was deceptive, but that's been amended and changed, and Alan Clark originally had in the bill that there would be no provision for the people to ever change the term limits again from the people's vote. That was removed out of the bill. There was also an amendment to set term limits on judges. That was removed out of the bill as well. So I will say this, the bill, and I think some of this is because of Conduit News' reporting, quite honestly. These amendments were made, and that's where the bill is at this current time. Now, it still does take a legislator and allow him to serve a lifetime. And their argument, some make the argument, well, shouldn't that be able to happen in case we have a Thomas Jefferson or a George Washington? The problem is everybody down there thinks they're a Thomas Jefferson or George, or the vast majority do. That's the problem that I have with this, but it does apply to both the House and the Senate, meaning you're not going to be able to, if you serve your 12 years, you can't go down to the House or up to the Senate. You're going to have to go home for 4 years. Anyway, it passed the House. Now, there's no doubt in my mind why it's getting some support, and that's because the term limits people, Arkansas term limits, that got their, they wanted to set the term limits to 10 years. And they wanted, and of course they got thrown off the ballot. Well, there's the talk that they may come back, and they may want to try to get, signatures and get back on the ballot again. And Senator Clark, is what he said from the floor of the Senate was, if that happens, legislators will have the opportunity to advocate for a term limits bill and not just be against the other term limits. So it's possible that you could have two competing term limits measures, and if both of them pass, whoever gets the most votes would win. That would be the amendment that wins out over the other. So anyway, what do you think about going from 16 years down to 12, where you got to sit out 4, and then you can come back, versus what we have now? Anyway, folks, we'll see you tomorrow.